Hello, hello, hello.
Right. Can everybody
It
hear me
was
now? Hello, everybody.
it was not an elegant intro.
It's okay.
It was a heartfelt one.
Yes. Okay, there we go. We're
Let's
back.
try that
We're
again,
here.
Vince, from the top.
Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. I forgot to switch back the sound. There's a good explanation for that. As I was explaining, I spent about 12 hours in the hospital overnight into today. I am on a lot of extremely heavy pain medication. I am barely conscious, but we do not miss shows on this channel. So I had to call up the reserves, had to get Tyler in because I'm going to be honest, my brain is barely working right now. So Tom and Tyler are going to be leading a lot of this show as we talk about the current state, and I'll interject every so often with near hallucinations, pretty much. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a good
And
time.
this is gonna maintain the streak for Vince. He has never missed a show. Truly.
Correct.
He's put me to shame. I miss
So
he's got a more serious situation than I had. He's still
he'll,
here.
he'll be fine. It's
Be
okay.
fine.
He'll be fine. It's Vince.
I will be fine.
He'll be fine.
On
that note,
yeah, go ahead.
On
Tom,
that note,
you're the co-host
yeah.
tonight. How you doing?
Yeah, so I'm doing pretty well. Glad to be with everybody. Hello, friends. The news. So we have a rumor engine. It's a little clawy boy here. Tyler, what do you think we're looking at?
Looks Tyrannity. Or maybe these Malarian elves we're gonna see in 2024.
Yeah. It reminds me of something corrupted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that it has 5 fingers. And I know that sounds silly, but not a lot from a design standpoint, like not a lot of things often have 5 fingers other than humanoids.
And
Which
discounts.
Indeed. Discounts definitely do have 5 fingers sometimes. So
Yeah, it looks like an amble claw. I agree with Brian S.
Yeah. And so it looks something mutated. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a 40K thing. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
That's probably right. So let's move on.
But hey, some things that we thought might not have been or thought had been 40K, and we're going to talk about it a little later when we get to the some later news items. So let's keep moving.
Yeah,
talk about Cursed City.
Yeah, let's talk about Cursed City. What? We're doing Underworld's expansion next, aren't we?
Well, I got the Cursed City thing next.
Okay. Tyler, how about you talk about the Cursed City thing?
Oh,
I'll
goodness,
talk about it. I'll tee it up. Yeah. No, it's fine. I got it. Here we go. This is the second and final expansion, which was a surprise to me. What? I thought we were going to get like figs and stuff. Yeah. Didn't we all think that?
We did get figs.
In the box? Like, the original Cursed City box?
No, like, if
in
you
the
go
and
look...
Gravelord's army?
So here's the deal. I just picked up the other expansion, the first one. Because, like, I want to have these, right? Like, I don't want these. Like, I don't want to miss these. And so, but when you crack that open, like, it says on the back, you need to buy Chattakar. You need to buy crits at the rat guy. Like, so they it looks like they reformulated and reprinted the boxes basically without the models, right? But they're acknowledging that like you need to buy these models in order to play this expansion. And so like it definitely identifies those models very clearly on the back of the box.
Yeah, but like isn't that kind of crap?
I mean, not really. But so let me counter, okay? So here's the alternative. The alternative, they release these expansions in limited number with models in the boxes that can be used in Soulblight.
Yeah.
What that does is that once those expansions sell out, which they always do because they don't they don't overproduce that stuff, right? Like they always
Sure.
produce in limited numbers, which is what happened with Blackstone Fortress, right? Those
Sure.
expansions, the models that came out, as soon as those hit the market, those things evaporated, and now you can't get any of that stuff, and it's hundreds of dollars. And so what they didn't want to do, I'm assuming, is put models that you're going to want to use in your army in those boxes and not anywhere else. So the
Yeah,
alternative
but
was
like,
they
aren't these like
release.
$50 for some cardboard and instruction expansions?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, that seems like a lot.
I don't know.
Like,
It's fine.
given I am completely out of my gourd right now on pain meds, but that doesn't feel right to me. Like, I wanted new models. I thought we were going to get more cool stuff around the world and having to do with like gothic horror stuff. Am I the only one? I was pretty sad.
I think we got all of it. Is the answer? Like I think we
Yeah.
got all of it in the actual Soul Blight release.
Yeah.
And
It's
any
just
of
a
the
shame.
and the reality is this: in any of the city models that were likely going to get used got co-opted for other things. So like the Underworld's warband that we have that may have been like the Hunter warband. That stuff may have, like the Witch Hunter, Hexbane or whatever his name is,
Yeah,
that
sure.
may have just been straight co-opted into that stuff. You
Sure.
know, like that, like that could have just been rolled into Underworlds. Kato himself may have had a place in this and got moved to a commemorative mini or whatever.
Sure.
Like I suspect that that's what's happened. Is that when that initially happened, they scattered the models, repurposed them, into something that where they could easily slot it into a release cycle. And then now that they thought they could release this rather than reworking the rules, right? They just boxed it up and are shipping it off, and they're doing their expansions. So,
Yeah, I hear ya. It's still disappointing. So, such is life. All right, what's next? Let's not tarry on the sad thing. Let's talk about the awesome thing. Boom. Warcry thing.
Warcry, yeah,
Now
yeah.
we're talking. Now we're talking. All right. What do you think of these two warbands?
One of them is
Go.
amazing. One of them should not exist. We all know which one shouldn't
Ooh.
exist. Team
No,
Tom.
Tyler.
Team
Tyler, you
Tom.
tell us. Tyler, you tell us which one shouldn't exist.
All skanks need to be burned. That policy has not changed for the last 3 years. Still applies.
We
Should
get
never have
accusations of a lot of Lumineth hate on this show, and I'll cop to that, okay? Although we were mostly positive on the new book. But I would just point out that 2/3 of the hosts of this show are apparently ready to strike most of the Seraphon range from existence and just bin the army. I'm not there.
Standing on the right side of history, Vince.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
okay.
Absolutely. I think these warbands are amazing, man. Why wasn't this the launch box? That was my first thought. Like,
Well,
this is so much better.
this is so unusual though for them, right? Because now we've had basically 2 like launch-ish boxes, dual boxes in like 4 months.
No, this is how Kill Team is now too. This is
Oh,
how
is it
this is
really?
the new release strategy. Yeah, so Kill Team was like this for basically the year beforehand. Where effectively like it's just every quarter you get a quote unquote like launch box. Now with Kill Team, sometimes it's been like one completely new warband or whatever, and one with like an upgrade sprue or just repackaged or something like that. But these guys, all right, so we got our Skinkerdoos, Chameleons, right?
Yep.
And such. And we have our like these Jade something worshippers, which are like Zinchi. Clearly they talk to the speaker in stone or whatever, which is like it's a Zinch thing. These guys look amazing. I really like them. I love their face masks. I think these guys look fantastic.
Other than the skinks, I love the box. It makes
I think
want
the
to
skinks
buy.
look really good too. I'll say.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
I mean, what I'll say is this. I like if you buy like it makes me want to like so obviously I have the Gur box with the 2 boards in it.
Yeah.
it looks like both of these have been Gur with like similar Gur boards. It makes me want to pick up both of those Warcry and literally have like a table size set of boards all in Gur with
Yeah, I
enough
think you need
terrain to.
more than that. One of my problems with the Gur set was it didn't quite come with enough terrain, honestly.
No, but with these two Warcry boxes, you should have enough. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. To do like, do you mean like a Warcry size board, not a AOS size board?
No. I'm saying like because you'll actually have the 4 boards for AOS.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, okay.
Does that make sense? Like you'll have
Yeah,
an AOS size thing, and then you'll have basically the 2 Warcry boxes of terrain and the Gur box, all themed to Gur, and that should be enough terrain for a full size table, right?
that's my answer. Nah, I don't think so. I think it'd be like half of what you need, but
And do you need? Sorry,
it's
do you need
good.
six of these boards or 4 of these boards for a full size table?
It's 4 of these boards for a full table. My point is that I don't think they had enough for the individual Warcry thing, and certainly not enough for 2. I love this terrain. Honestly,
Yeah,
though, if you have the original Warcry, I think it mixes with this set just fine. Like
that's
the
fair.
buildings and stuff, because they just look like
Yep,
ruined buildings in the middle of the
yep.
overgrown, crazy man-eating forest. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. I love these like trees and the giant skulls and stuff like this. I think that all of this terrain was from the previous set, right? There's not new stuff here. Am I wrong?
No, these trees are all new.
No,
Yeah,
the muscle arm trees are from the previous one. The centerpiece might be new. This middle thing. I don't know if that was in the last one. This thing right here.
I mean, I can look it up real quick, but
No, that's fine. Either way, and look. Point is, Tyler, what'd you think of the Jade guys? I want to get your take on the
yeah,
Jade guys.
they're amazing. I mean, I hope that they not just a standalone, that maybe they're part of something larger, something bigger. Obviously, they're related to Zinch, but
Yeah,
they look incredible. I like a little bit of the narrative that they've shared so far in the article that goes along
yeah.
with them. It's interesting.
I really liked the unusual weapons for them. Like it's sort of, they have like hammers and like like, what do you, like chiseled things, right? Because obviously they
hmm
work with stone, they turn to stone. So it just felt cool. Like you don't get to see a lot of Zinch people with that kind of weapon stuff. I like their armor style. I thought that like the half sort of over the shoulder cloaks and things like that. Yeah, I mean this box was a winner for me. I liked both warbands. I thought they were both super cool. So
The trees are the same, but the actual like none of them have buildings. These all trees all have like bridges in between them.
Right, yeah.
okay,
Um, and then but it doesn't have any of these buildings. Like all these are trees built in with buildings, which is all new.
gotcha.
So it's similar trees, but a lot of it is different.
Cool.
So yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Everything models are beautiful as always, so to
Yeah,
be expected.
yeah.
So I
Good
hope they
stuff.
don't
I can't
slow
wait to see
down.
what the next because we know there's like 2 more after this,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Mm.
So, I mean, if this is where we're ramping toward, man, I'm excited about future Work Riot boxes. Honestly, to see what else we get. Like this
Yeah.
is what I was hoping they would do with Warcry, right? Which is expand out and give us these kind of factions and non-chaos stuff. So I hope like the next one is 0 chaos. Do like 2 cool things. Do like a undead one and a destruction one or something. Like that'd be super cool. Something like that. Like who else is in this forest trying to get this down spaceship? I agree with Gareth, which he says every Warcry terrain set looks like it's set in Australia. That feels
That
very true.
that checks out.
Yeah.
Then obviously we know that Underworlds we have Anara Wood, and we got a
Mhm.
roadmap ish of stuff coming. So they had like Rivals Nether Maze, and then they had a Fearsome Fortress Rivals deck coming with a looks like a Moon Clan warband, which is exciting, and
Mhm.
then a new warband, and we don't know what that warband is. It had a symbol that looks like if I dare I say, dark elf mask.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
everybody's excited because everybody immediately was like, "Oh, it's Malekith! It's the Malekith face!" Like, when will it happen? When will it happen?
Well, I think it may be happening soon.
I guess
I'm
we'll
gonna
see.
be I'm gonna be an individual of eternal hope. Let's just say that.
Tom, if there's
Um,
one thing I know about you for sure, it's that you're nothing but hopeful constantly. Absolutely.
Always just hope and joy. I exude it.
By the way, for
Indeed.
those late, I apologize if I sound out of it. I am, just to bring everybody up to speed here, for people who tuned in a little later than right at the beginning. Spent about 12 hours in the hospital over the last day. I'm very hot. I'm very doped up on pain meds to manage the pain. And yeah, so stuff like that. So I'm sorry, everybody, if it's not the sharpest commentary I've ever had. The
Indeed.
show must go
Indeed.
on. All right.
And
Is
then
that all? Oh, one more
Warhammer
thing. Yeah.
Fest.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Warhammer Fest next April.
I'm excited. I'll be over there. I don't know what I'm going to have for Golden Demon, since I will already have participated in Golden Demon like exactly a month beforehand, basically. But I'm going to go over there again. Hoping to teach some classes before or after. I'm still working on the dates. So for those of you who had a class at my London class that was scheduled originally for 2020, well, it only took 3 years, but we got there, everyone. So, so there you
Yep.
go.
The and then we went to Holy Havoc this last week, and that was
Yeah.
a wonderful event. We got to see tons of bright, shining faces. I'm going to encourage everybody to. Well, I'll save that for my pick of the week in a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, brought home some hardware, so it was a good time all around.
And we've got some big plans for the next one. I'm excited. Tom is spearheading this one, and so I'm excited. We were already uh, uh, we were already planning and plotting, I guess, on the way back. Yeah, there you go.
I built all of that already.
Brent, it was most definitely an emergency, but I'll be all right. It's literally like in the ambulance to the hospital. Anyways, okay. Any other news items?
Nope, I think that's it.
Cool. Let's talk about some pick of the week. Tyler, you got some picks. What do you got for everybody?
Yep. So I love the Lumineth show you guys did. I have been playing quite a bit of Lumineth on TTS lately, which is my only source of playing. So I've been checking out various content on that. The Strategoi fellas had an awesome review. I'd highly recommend doing a really good deep dive. And the Cubic Shenanigans podcast, they had a good episode. Dan and Brendan. Brendan just went 4-1 with Alarith at Dragonfall over the weekend, so congrats to him. And then a new channel called Arms. I think they're Scottish. They had an awesome battle report with Lumineth and Daughters of Cain that I was enjoying today over lunch. Finally, Plastic Crack, previously known as Plastic Crake around here due to my misunderstanding of how to
Creek.
pronounce. Peter always has amazing content. He had a great post on competitive Sons of Bahamut list that I would highly recommend. It's a really good breakdown of various lists.
Nice. Dig it. Tom, what do you got for picks?
I'm gonna just encourage folks to go check out Holy Hammer Hearn's Twitter feed. He has a bunch of photos up from this last weekend of lots of folks playing Warhammer at Holy Wars or Holy Havoc, sorry, which is just a wonderful event. We Stephen Wren was there, Domus, Sean Troy,
Alex,
just all
obviously, and Sean. And
Alex and
we
Sean,
got to
and
play
just
our pigs and squigs on constant enemy again.
Zach and Kamran. Yep.
Yeah, they were great. It's so much fun to play those guys every time.
We played Destruction
almost
four of
almost
the
exclusively.
five,
Yeah,
four
Tyler,
of the five
games. We had 4 destruction games.
and the only one we didn't was the Ringer.
Yeah. Yep. So
How many people were at that event this year? 50
so it's
or
72 is the max,
okay,
right? Because
Yeah.
it's 4 people times 18 tables.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were using all 18 tables every round, right? So
Yeah.
there was 2 people had dropped out at the end, so basically 70, I guess, because then the ringer
That's
and
great.
Shout out to Belle, to Steve's wife, who actually sat in and played with Reed, his son, and so we got to play them. That was very fun. Yeah. So she like never plays Warhammer, but she did there. And did you see that she's getting Steve to convert an army for her?
I did a Twilight Vampire army from her Bretonian army.
Love it.
Nice.
Yep. So for November 1st, so before this show goes live again, it'll be signups for Holy Wars, and so that's the segue of the reason why I want to bring up Holy Havoc was because check out the event is that the next doubles event in 93 days is Holy Wars, and
they both moved to doubles. I didn't realize that. Okay,
yes, they have both moved to doubles, right?
Okay,
just different formats of what you're playing, but yeah.
Yeah, like in the fall, it's 1,000 points plus a custom-made warlord. In the winter for Holy Wars, it's you bring 1,500, basically 1,000 plus a 500-point sideboard, and you can swap every game.
Oh, so, sweet.
Yeah. So that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely.
Quick, with 500-point sideboard, is it you play the entire 500 or you pick from the 500?
You don't have to play any of the sideboard. So basically,
you can swap individually. Is what it's like just like a Magic sideboard. You can like take out 3 cards and put in 3 cards. You don't have to use all 15.
Okay, cool.
Same thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's sideboards in Warhammer are a little more tricky because obviously it's not like a 1-to-1 like cards, right? Yeah. So you gotta like sort of think about your list and like, do you have swappable things, right? So it's like, okay, these two roughly equal the points of this thing, and I can, or whatever, that kind of thing. So
I'd like to see sideboards come back with singles and doubles a little bit more. I just think that it has to be controlled in a way where some of us who are a little more deliberate are not staring at our sideboard for 10 minutes before the game.
Sure.
So.
What? I don't know what you're talking about there, Tyler. You deliberate?
Tyler, do you know how to fix that with sideboards? Like, there's a way that you can like break the analysis paralysis.
Yeah, I had some ideas, but what do you got? I've thought a little bit about it.
You bring your sideboard, right? And then you pre-make 4 lists out of that sideboard.
Yeah.
So that you like already have kind of set lists that you can, and so instead of trying to figure out what you're going to sub in and out, like
you're subbing effectively to a different list.
You're subbing effectively to a different list, like a pre-made, so you've already thought through it. And if you need to even tweak it more, like I'm going to do this, but only pull out 1 unit, that's easier than having to figure out the whole point window. So
makes sense.
That's the way to do it quickly.
There you go. My pick of the week is for our good friends over at Rerolling Ones. And a 3,500 point mega battle they did on their channel. I watched a bunch of it last night as I was writhing in pain on the floor. It was a lot of fun. And great fight. It showed the new Sons of Behemoth. So Bear had a 3,500 point SOB army against 3,500 points of Iron Jaws, like 4 mega bosses or whatever. Like Gordrak was one of them. And Kragnos in the list too.
Wow.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but, the Smasher tribe is good at killing monsters. Jack brought a lot of monsters. It's a fun time. So if you want to see new giants and what they do to enemy monsters, this is a good example.
Can I jump back real quick?
Yeah.
For Holy Havoc, it is a fundraiser at its heart. And this time around raised $8,600.
Wow.
So that's like, if there's no other reason to go to the Holy events, it's simply it's for fundraising.
Yeah, 100%. And a cool raffle too. I won some Skaven, so that's good.
Yeah, I won some things.
Our buddy Dan basically won a Cruel Boys army. That's the best way I can describe it.
Oh, wow.
He really did. So
he won a
Cruel Boys army now.
He won a Kragnos, and he won like a dual box between like Stormcast and Cruel Boys, and he won like a couple random
3
heroes.
3 Cruel Boys heroes.
Yeah, and I won a hero and threw it at him because I was like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
So he walked out with a Cruel Boys army.
Yeah, because he already has Dominion, obviously. So I was like, you're set, dude. You got everything you need. Um, okay. Cool. Let's talk about a little hobby time. Tyler, you've been working on anything? How goes the how
I
goes
have a
the
little bit.
the painting?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. I've gotten some Plague Bearers done, got some Blight Lords, got a little bit of assembling done. Slowly but surely, getting there. So I've got some games in, like I said on TTS, loving. So Tom, you sent me your Lumineth list
Yeah.
before I had a chance to write a single list.
Did it
It
corrupt
just
you?
so happened you wrote the perfect list that I would write. I'm not going to give you too much credit.
Yeah, be
And
careful
and
with
It's
how
that.
it's
and how did
literally
it
the
play for you,
list
Tyler?
that I would write.
Tyler, and how did it play for you?
It's amazing. It
Isn't
actually
it?
for the finally Lumineth
No.
feel like a high elf army.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. That's exactly what I was writing it for, is to feel like a high elf army. Oh, that's so
It's
encouraging.
a
Yeah.
it's a Highlander format. It's a strong Highlander format list. No duplicate war scrolls and a minimum of 9 different war scrolls. There's 10 different ones. I tried making tweaks to it. Eltharion doesn't really fit in there elegantly. It's like
Nope, it
all of the
doesn't.
pieces just fit perfectly if you're aiming
Right?
for a variety pack combined arms list.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
fantastic. Yeah. So
I'm so encouraged, Tyler. Like, that's like, I wasn't writing it to be a Highlander style, but I wanted
yeah.
a mixture of stuff. And I agree. I think that to my mind, it's the gold standard of new Lumineth lists. So
It's really nice.
Tom Warpstone
um,
Enjoyer in the comments wants to know what the list is. You should share it out on
Oh,
your
that
Twitter.
that would probably help. Yes. So Tom, again.
no, go ahead. Go
Partial-
ahead,
can't,
Tyler.
can't feed the ego too much. It was very annoying that you wrote the list already before I had a chance, but there it is. So it is Avalanor, of course. He's just a rock star. Stone Mage as the general with the trio of goodies that you're going to see all the time. The what is it called? Unyielding Toughness for the command trait, Unbreakable Stoicism for the spell, and then Molten Talisman for the artifact. So that gives you +1 to wound characteristic for unit of Stone Guard Holy Within 6. It gives you +1 to wound rolls in melee for all Alrith, Holy Within 12 of the Stone Mage. Unbreakable Stoicism turns the unmodified 6s a hit to a mortal wound to 5s. And 6s do mortal wound. And that's an addition, which is pretty insane in my experience
Yep.
with Stone Guard so
Yep.
far, the damage that they put out. And then a Seeker with Total Eclipse. And then a Lord Regent with Speed of Hish. Lord Regent, of course, greater power of Hish on your, in this case, 10 Wardens, 20 Sentinels, 5 Blade Lords, 5 Dawn Riders. So hopefully you'll get at least 2 of those. And then 10 Stone Guard, a Ballista, and the a little busted Rune of Petrifaction, which should be a little higher than 40 points.
It's
Thing is
fine.
ridiculous
It's
at 40
fine.
points.
It's fine. It doesn't move. Just avoid it. Just avoid it or
just avoid
unbind
it.
it.
Yeah.
Just avoid the fact that it hits you 3 times before you get a chance to avoid it.
And you can 1 drop or 2 drop and actually drop it in their line with the Lore Seeker. Ignore
With
that.
the Lore Seeker, 100%. Yeah. No, it's a beautiful list. It plays. It's so much fun. It's very competitive. Lots of tools. It's great.
Very nice. Tom, obviously I know a lot of your hobby time was playing at Holy Havoc this weekend,
Yep.
but did you have what
Yep.
you actually did get a lot of stuff done. You held it up earlier. You're assembling for the next
Yep.
army.
This is the one that I just finished not too long
Necromancer.
ago. My Necromancer. So you can't see her well. So that's all I'm going to show is a Necromancer and let you discern the rest of the 1,000-point list.
There you go. For myself, need to get tutorials made again because I had like 10 days without any filming. I was trying to record, but I'm going to do a little basing tutorial about Chaos Based and Chaos Wastelands. But I also got this guy painted up, Mr. Centurion Marshal guy. He's going to go on the base. He's super fun. Such a pretty fig. I did swap out his net hand. I don't know if you can see that. He doesn't have his big net for just like a hand, like just a hand. But yeah, this dude's cool. I really liked this guy. He was fun to paint. Pretty stoked about S2D coming up.
Oh yeah.
But obviously I played S2D this last weekend and had a lot of fun. And I'm very excited about the new book. So And don't worry, Manny, I'm sure you're not that far off. Okay. So that was some hobby time. Let's talk about the actual thing we're here to talk about, gentlemen. I forgot to put the timestamp for the other one, but that's okay. All right. So what we wanted to talk about tonight is just have a conversation about the state of the game, where we think it's at. And we want help from you out there in the audience. And that's not just because I can barely form a coherent thought. It's because I want to know what you think. So, Tyler. Ugh. Sorry, I dropped something. Okay, let's start with you, buddy. What do you think about the current state of AOS right now?
Okay, so high level, clearly external balance wise, essentially the best that it's ever been.
Yep.
We've been in that place for some time broadly, and it's only that statement has only become more true over the last 6 months. And so on that front, it's really strong.
And we know we sit here on, the precipice here at some point this month. We're owed a battle scroll, so hopefully we're going to see, the few things on each side of that kind of get pushed in some way.
They told us they've made it clear some of what's going to get touched. Piece of Chaos, Blight Lords, kind of hoping they don't increase the points necessarily as the fix for Blight Lords. I think maybe a better solution would be to focus on Drowned Men itself, maybe limiting the number of Blight Lords that can take advantage of Drowned Men in a list. Maybe that's like half. If you've got 8, you could do 4. If you got 4, you could do 2, or maybe it's just a D3. But yeah, either way. And then, of course, on the bottom end, Cruel Boys, Ghost Shark, Bone Reapers, etc. Beasts of Chaos, I think, definitely need to get touched a little bit. They're a little insane when it comes to.
Yeah, I mean, they shot to the absolute top, like from down on the bottom side to like the most busted army right now as far as win rate goes, which is crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah, external balance really good. I wanted to have a conversation with you guys about the GHB. We've had a little bit of going back and forth on, is it a good idea to have 6-month intervals or a year?
No.
And no, yeah, where you stand. I can't remember where you stand on that. We don't necessarily do it right now, but I find that to be actually a bit of a tricky question in terms of the trade-offs. So, like, for example,
let me just say one thing real quick, and then I'm gonna let you go, which is, I think nobody will be sad if we get our new season, at the 6-month point. So whatever, December, January, I don't know, who knows when it's supposed to happen exactly, but whenever that occurs, I don't think anybody's gonna be sad if like Bounty Hunters and Expert Conquerors goes away. I think we can, I think for the most part those just didn't work.
Well, that's kind of my point, dude, is that if we were back on the prior 1-year release schedule, would it be the case that those would go away 6 months? Yeah, maybe they could do it through Battle Scroll updates, right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, we screwed that up. I guess that would be one tool that they would have to do it. But I do find over the years and thinking about the game that things do tend to get a little stale on a number of fronts at the 6-month interval. So I can understand where they're coming from in a number of ways with this choice of 2 seasons in a year, even though there are challenges for many folks with that pace of schedule. I don't know. I don't necessarily find there to be a clear answer in terms of the way to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my answer, which is a year is fine. People can't build armies that fast. People don't like that much tumult. That's just not the world of Age of Sigmar. And you lose people really hard when they feel like the game is like rollicking under their feet, right? People want some amount of stability. If there are problems that pop up, like if Bounty Hunters, like let's say we didn't have this 6-month season thing, which I hope just goes in the bin, okay? Like we know it's happening here, but like let's just hope this was an experiment and they're all like they hear our feedback loud and clear, and decide to just bin this. So the answer would be, yeah, just fix it in Battle Scroll, because that's fine. Those quarterly updates, those are good. I like those. They're small. Most of those changes can be pushed into the app, so they're just there and they're how things read. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, like, here's the deal. I don't think we need a whole GHB. I think a Battle Scroll with some points updating, even if you had a points updating that's hitting everything, right?
Yeah.
Not just the highs and lows. Let's say that you did an entire points release at the 6-month mark. I think that's fine. Honestly, we don't need a full printed GHB for that year for new battalions and new scenarios and new battle tactic. No, you do that once a year. I think the 6-month schedule is a terrible idea if that's what we truly have.
So you mentioned the scenarios. Let's hit on that. So right now, what I thought I think probably all of us thought were the pretty clear top 5 missions, in fact, turned out to be the most played. And those are Prize of Gallet with 16%, Silk Steel Nest with 13%, Titus Paths and Head-on Collision both at 11%, and then finally close to the chest, in the presence of idols at 10% and close to the chest at 9%. This hasn't been updated this is the Honest Wargamer T-Sports Network data. It hasn't been updated a little bit. I would guess probably close to the chest is around 10%. I've been seeing it a lot in events of the last couple of months or month or so.
Sure.
And then, so those are the top, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, top 6 there. Yeah. And then you have a bit of a drop off. We've got what I think are 2 viable match play tournament missions, but that have some challenges. Stone Cash and Won't Back Down. Stone Vince identified the problem with that right out of the gate, which is the alpha bunkering issue. I think that I haven't heard a lot of talk about it, but I do, having played a little bit, I do think that can be a problem. And then Won't Back Down has the 4+ rally, which at times can skew that mission. And then the community has largely decided that the other 4 missions are irrelevant, like very low percentage play-wise.
Yeah, just not played because they're not appropriate for tournaments. I mean,
right.
And I would say that the shame to me of it in this current season, I mean, the thing I would like is it'd be fine if they just released more maps at the 6-month point. Like, it'd be neat if don't bin any of the old ones, but it'd be neat if, like, at the 6-month point we got, like, if this GHB was got rid of, like, bounty hunters and expert conquerors and just introduced some new maps that could also be used. I'm not sure I'd be super sad about it. I'm not sure I want to pay $50 for it, but at least then it's doing something virtuous, right? Like, here's new core battalions. We keep the Battle Brothers thing that everybody likes, which should just be part of the core game, right?
Yep.
And that'd be fine. But I'd love it if we went from and in the winter we'll go from 12 to 18 maps because the Battle Scroll will contain 6 additional maps or something, right? Like, cool. That's fine, right? Like, great, good, cool beans. But if the whole landscape changes, which, I mean, obviously we don't know exactly what's going to be in there, but it's not. But if the whole landscape changes, boof.
Yeah, and that's obviously the major concern. Yeah, and I certainly agree with that. But yeah, I just mentioned the missions because we have had GHBs where the community decided, wow, we hate half of these missions, and I know a lot of people are feeling that this set is getting stale and uninteresting now that we're getting close to the 6-month interval. I went through that to say that I actually think it's, even though it may go against the grain of the consensus opinion that seems to be out there, I think there are roughly 6 very viable and 8 fairly viable missions out of the 12. And that's a pretty good track record relative historically. But yeah, you have this feeling of staleness, right, at 6 months. So how do you address that? Is it Battle Scroll? Is it, I don't know, but I think you need something. Maybe it is 6 missions. That's obviously why we did War Coda last year, because everybody was feeling like, this is so stale.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is if you had all 12 being fully tournament viable or something, it'd last a year, no problem. Because you could, like you lots of mix and match would be possible there and there.
Certainly. Certainly.
The problem is that really, I mean, like, I know you say that, but about the 8, but I really think it's closer to 6. I'd even say 5.5. But like, and that just presents a real problem, right? Like, these things have to be tight. They have to all be interesting. And let me say this. I mean, we talked about the starter battle pack before, you know, and that still needs to exist. Let's hope we see some version of that soon. But we need like an evergreen permanent battle pack that's much simpler, but also that has the right number of full missions in it. You know, like the core battle pack is fine. I actually like the 3 missions in the core rules battle pack, but what am I gonna do with 3 missions?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we need a full set of missions, 6 minimum. So
Yeah.
that like people who don't want to worry about the GHB stuff can actually can actually like have some variants for their RTTs or one dayers or you know, just to play at home, right? And they don't have to feel like they're running on the treadmill. I think the impact of the treadmill would be a lot less if you had a more stable, constant, robust base, right? Where people could feel like, it's cool, I can just stick to this part. I'm good.
Yeah.
Right?
That's interesting. So, in terms of some other thoughts, State of the Game was they intimated this as well in the MetaWatch article last month. We have yet to see, well, we've been seeing the best improvement on internal balance through these 3.0 battletomes.
Yep.
At the same time, there I think is still quite a bit out there that needs to get addressed internal balance wise. The poster example of this is the Stormcast, the very first Battletome with Cruel Boys, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of the initial launch tomes are problematic. And you know, like, just because I was talking to somebody who's, you know, starting up an Escalation League and was playing, and they were like, why are there so many units?
Sure.
And they're a Stormcast player, right? And they're like brand new to the game, and they're like, well, is this unit okay? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. You can play that. Here's how you do it, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, so is it not okay? What are you telling me? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. There's a lot of units, you know.
Tell them to, when it comes to the heroes, Vince, tell them to flip a coin, because that's where we are. That we've got basically 40 heroes, and about half of them are sufficiently viable in match play setting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for every for every Lord Bastion, amazing model, wonderful hero to play, so much fun, there's a Knight Relictor. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. What is this thing? So yeah, I mean, that's the challenge. Now, I'd say post those 2 books, I agree, we got into a much better place quickly. Like, you know, I do think the flies present internal balance challenges to Nurgle, but other than that, it's pretty strong. And I think most of the other tomes have hit that pretty well, actually. Most.
Might be interesting for us to try to go back and pinpoint any examples in terms of, you know, internal balance.
Yeah.
Where it's a little lacking right now. I'm sure we could find some, certainly of the 9 or 10 factions that don't yet have a 3.0 Battletome. We see it obviously a lot more in that, but
there it's rife, right? And
yeah.
And Rational Nihilist, I agree with you, who said War Clans save Cruel Boys is incredible. Like, I agree. The Iron Jaws, they screwed up the internal balance post the first change when they decided, because Jagged Gorehackas were named the same on brutes and pigs, they had to make the pig win -2 rend, when the pigs were -1 rend and the brutes were -2 rend.
Yep.
It was like perfection. Your Ardboys were your spam anvil who could rally easily. Your pigs were your mobile, you know, hitters that don't hit as hard, right?
Yep.
And your brutes were the big damage when you want to go in and get in the scrum on an objective. Like, it was perfect. And then we ruined it through an FAQ. Yeah, so.
Well, you know what? Maybe it'll get fixed someday.
Sure. One can only hope. And Andrew, I certainly agree. I mean, we all know that, like, the old 2.0 books are still hanging out. A lot of those are very problematic, right? So, like, Gloomspite being a great example.
Well, problematic in both directions, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, you get stuff like Soulblight, which is, like, still pretty good. you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we played, as you mentioned, Tom, earlier, we played a lot of Destruction over the weekend, right?
Yep.
And so we lined up against multiple Gits players. And, we weren't exactly like rocking the most powerful stuff. Like we had very, like a current Slaves to Darkness, like warriors
like a
and knights and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And a Fire Slayer's foot list.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's not like we were bringing the heat. But I just felt so bad for them because I'd watch them, Tyler, roll the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just didn't go anywhere.
It just would they're like, turn 2. Oh, the moon doesn't come out. And I'm like, okay, well then basically 2/3 of this game, you're not going to have allegiance ability. Right. How fun for you.
Yeah, that's rough.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that I return back to is, I mentioned this offhand, it's funny that we're in, I think, the best the game has ever been for, like, especially highly competitive players or, like, the competitive scene.
Yeah.
Tournaments are clearly exploding, right? Just like the numbers of tournaments, the attendance at tournaments, and that's great. I think that's because more people feel more armies are more viable, right? Which is wonderful. The problem is the hurdle to get in to like play the game has become too high. The like base level setting, we've talked about this on lots of shows, but if I had to talk about the 2023 state of the game, like end of this year leading into 2023, it would be like, boy, do we have too much complexity right now.
Yeah, like it's funny. I'm getting ready to launch a small league with my kids, and like we just like the amount of like paring down I'm having to do is embarrassing.
Right. Yeah. Again, like, because we don't have that, like, I don't even want to call it the starter battle pack. I just want to call it like the simplified battle pack. I don't know.
Right.
Like,
right. Like, so going in, it's so funny because like going into it, like, because he played in first edition, he played in second edition, and like having to bring him up to speed fully to like embrace third edition is just a mess. And like I don't know how to do that, and like I want to prep him for like a young bloods league, but I just don't even know how to do that because not only the weight of like the breadth of knowing all the armies, right? Sure. That's always been a challenge, right? But then now having to like push down all the depth of tactics while also hitting all the high points of like the super competitive armies.
Yeah.
And helping him like navigate that. It's just, and he's playing Flesh Eater Corps, which, because of course he is, because that's what he wanted to play. And so cool. But that has its own challenges.
Where you have to explain, nobody, because your guy got roared, he's not allowed to use his super cool fight twice command ability anymore. Like, what a fun thing for you.
So sad.
Your special army thing that you get, which is that you go frenzied and blah, 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 and like chew a whole bunch. You don't get to use that because a random monster rolled a die and got a 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff. Sorry about your allegiance ability.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Tyler. What do you think about it? By the way, Signa said basic battle pack. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I mean.
Basic core.
Yeah.
Rules, core battle pack. Yeah. I've been watching Tabletop Tactics, so the probably most popular other than mini wargaming YouTube channel with their battle reports. They've picked up AOS. They have started with the 4 rules, 3 missions, right? And then they've ignored all the GHB stuff. And so that's definitely helped. But to me, it has drawn a clear need for something a little more defined than just maybe the core rules and what is in that book, which isn't a whole lot. You've got, I think, how many battle tactics were there? Like 3 or 6, and then
there's 6.
I know they did a grand strategy. Yeah, 6 in the base and 3 missions. So anyway, it's helped them, right? They've played a lot of games now, and they're working their way up to the GHB. But it does still feel like we're missing something. I mean, there's a whole lot of things we could talk about in terms of what would improve the state of the game. I think most everybody is on board with. I mean, I was just looking at the Pacific Northwest Masters tournament over the weekend up in Jack's territory, and literally the top 3 list had a Kronspine in it. And
well, let's talk about this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all hope that it's changed in the battle scroll, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you really think it will be though?
I
Really?
don't know, man. I don't know.
I think at minimum the points will go up, but I'm not sure if we're going to get any war scroll changes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that thing is sort of a blight on
Yeah.
the game right now.
Yeah.
That's an
Um,
understatement. Go
yeah.
on.
No, I mean he's just like it's a cool concept that should have been relegated to the open play or not open play, sorry, the narrative play of the Thondia season,
Right.
where there's like stuff, there's battle tactics that are about dealing with incarnates, and it's a whole narrative experience of dealing with the incarnates and so on. And like I have no problem with that kind of stuff being in there. That's great, right? That's
Yeah.
super fun. Like I love things like that you get to explore. We played through the Thondia season and did all that stuff. It was very fun, right?
Yep.
And the problem is when that a piece like that gets into when a piece like that gets into what do I want to say, like into match play, and it's just like ridiculously strong. Like, okay, great, awesome. I guess that's just a lot now, right?
You know,
Yeah.
go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say that, like, I just think that there's a sense in which, like, it should have just been like malign portents.
Mm.
Like, remember malign portents had like cards and a bunch of other stuff, like rules that that you could do and use and stuff like that. It should have just been that. And if the events wanted to do a Battle of Thondia, like battle pack, like to run that for an event, awesome.
Yeah. I was going
Yeah,
to
I
say
mean,
is that I know a lot of competitive players have the view that it's not that big of a, like I've played that thing probably a half dozen times and that's never been an issue, which is more of an egotistical statement than was intended, but like that's I think a fairly common sentiment among people who go to tournaments when they play against it. Like, what's the big deal? I can deal with this thing. So
sure.
to me, it definitely misses the point on some of
That, I mean,
the.
that was my experience. Like when I've played against it, I was like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and I hear the sentiment. I don't mean to personalize it between on the show with us, but I hear that sentiment a lot among competitive players. It's just I do think it's missing the point
Yeah.
about just the sheer fact how often we are seeing this and how often we are seeing it on top performing lists at tournaments. It's absurd. And as you said, Vince, what it's the skew that it's introduced, this one war scroll it has introduced. I mean, some of which for the benefit of uplifting a number of factions, right? That also has some downsides in terms of hiding the reality of those factions.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Apparently we've got some breaking news, by the by.
Uh-oh.
Gareth said, breaking news, everybody. Apparently the Sylvaneth FAQ just popped up. So a new Sylvaneth FAQ randomly at 10 p.m. Sure, why
Lovely.
not?
Must be on a timer.
Yeah. That feels like that wasn't supposed to go live yet. Doesn't it feel
That's
like
Sylvaneth.
somebody hit the scheduler on that and hit 10? Like, because it's normally it would go up at 10 a.m. You know, like that's when they release this stuff, like 10 a.m. Eastern,
Right.
Yep.
whatever time that is in British Standard Time.
Yep.
And so somebody hit like the wrong thing. They hit like the PM instead of the AM on the scheduler or whatever.
We got a history to maintain here, Vince. We've done this before with Sylvaneth.
Yeah, indeed. Poor Sylvaneth. So I'm guessing we have a scheduler problem. We'll take a look at that if it's still there. I'll bring it up now.
It's robust. I've just pulled it up. It's like half of the page is pink from updates.
Wow.
Look at it in a minute.
All right.
I mean, it does raise the point, obviously, about the lack of a consistent schedule with Battle Scroll and Facts. Can make life a little harder for TOs who are trying to plan their events around these things. I've certainly heard from a number of TOs and conversations over the last 6 months about this. You know, if we'd maintained the battle, I think we were generally, I don't remember if they actually ever said we were going to get, basically we're on a quarterly schedule for these battle scrolls, if they ever committed to that. But if that were the case, we're a month behind.
Sure.
Yeah.
I believe that's the commitment. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Would we like to interrupt this discussion to look at the Sylvaneth
This broadcast? Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right, let me get it up here. Bring it over onto the screen. There we go. That should be good. I think everybody can see that now. Yeah. We're in the right place. All right, let's take a look at our Sylvaneth changes here. It's so unusual we get breaking news during a show at 3 a.m. British time. But hey, why not? Thanks, whoever was in charge of scheduling and hit AM instead of PM. Here we go. Well, that tells me hopefully there's more coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Page 64. Looks like we got some errata here in pink. I'll come to that one later. This is actual errata.
Yep.
So, Strike and Fade change the rule to once per turn in your combat phase, immediately after a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is wholly within 9 inches of an overgrown terrain feature or friendly awakened wildwood has fought, and any slain models have been removed from play, Core Rules 14.2, you can remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again more than 9 inches from all enemy units and wholly within 9 inches of either a different overgrown terrain feature. There's more than 3 inches from all enemy units or a different friendly awakened wildwood more than 3 inches. Okay, so what's the change here? Is it just a timing thing?
Yeah, the designer's note. Read the designer's note, dude.
Oh, was there a designer's note?
Yep.
Oh, I see. Yeah, sorry. This errata means that any abilities or effects that come into play when a model is slain, but before it is removed from play, such as Blaze of Glory battle trait for the Stormcast Eternals, are resolved before the Strike and Fade effect, regardless of whose turn is taking place. Okay, cool. All right, good.
Makes sense.
Yeah, cool. So stuff like Fight on Death works. So that's cool. Nice. Okay.
Definitely needed clarification. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, hit like for mistimed battle scrolls and for me barely being able to keep it together here. So don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.
You're doing great. You're down to 30 minutes. So
awesome. We're gonna get it.
I'm keeping you on a tight schedule tonight.
I appreciate it. Okay.
You're welcome.
Let's look at the next one. Allegiance abilities, command trait, Spell Singer. Oh, my least favorite in the book. Here we go. When this general attempts to cast a spell before making the casting roll, you can pick one friendly awakened wildwood on the battlefield. If you do so and the spell is successfully cast and not unbound, the range, visibility, and effect of that spell can be measured from one scenery piece that is part of that friendly awakened wildwood spells. Friendly awakened wildwood. Spells that summon endless spells do not benefit from this effect. Okay.
Change. That was a little much, putting endless spells with Spell Singer.
Yep. Through Wildwood.
Yeah, I mean, we partially handled this problem by fixing Purple Sun, obviously, but I'm glad to see this. Like, I don't mind when Mr. Toots, kind of goes through there or whatever. That's fine. Yeah. It was just endless spell ranges are really important as a balancing factor for them.
Yes, right? They are. Yep.
And so making the range effectively infinite.
That's a big change.
Feels like a problem.
Indeed.
Okay, well, good changes.
Yep.
And then we have some changes to the Thrumming with Life ability on both of our Bug Riders. At the end of each phase, if any enemy models were slain by an attack made by this unit in that phase, you can heal all wounds allocated to this unit. That's just to clean up, right? That it has to be that unit that kills them. That's what it is, right?
Are they still putting back models, or are they just healing up wounds?
Well, that was a different. That's Thrumming with Life was the self heal. The Revenants are the ones who had a second ability that they could put a model back.
Got it.
Yeah, they just added in that phase. If any enemy models are slain by an attack made by this unit, is how it used to read. Then they added by this unit in that phase.
Okay, that makes sense.
Seems
People
fair.
were arguing that I killed a unit 2 turns ago, hence I get to always heal all wounds or something. I killed an isolated model.
I guess so. Yeah, certainly a stretch, but yeah, that must have been what was going on.
I can see why they would clarify that.
Yeah. I mean, look, Sylvaneth players are basically elf players, so it's what you're gonna get. All right, and then we did have a FAQ as well. Question: if a rule allows you to re-roll a casting roll made for a gnarl root wizard, and the first casting roll was affected by keepers of the arcane ability, is the reroll also affected by keepers of the arcane ability? Answer: yes. That's the 3d6 roll, right? Am I correct?
I believe so. If it allows you to re-roll casting roll, the first casting roll was affected by the. Oh yes, yeah. There was some debate in the way that it was worded, so that's a very good clarification.
Good, nice.
Some debate about whether you could do the 3d6 on the re-roll or not. So
Sure.
yeah, good deal.
Okay,
Yeah, not bad.
That's the Sylvaneth FAQ. There you go. Live react.
Oh.
Cool. Good changes. I have no problem with any of those. Mostly just clean up, some good timing notes. Yeah. Cool.
Don't hate that.
Don't hate that at all. Okay. Awesome. We'll put that back over here. All right, back to our state of the game. So let's talk about sort of the feel of these books that have been coming out. Okay.
Okay.
You mentioned that the internal balance on the 3.0 books has been better, and I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's largely true. There's some problem spots, obviously. We mentioned Stormcast and Cruel Boys already.
Sure.
I think everybody would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, it's been, it's been pretty consistently good.
Right.
My feeling has been, if anything, I wish they went a little farther on some of the books. What I mean by that is, like, Skaven felt like not really a full push update. Like, it felt kind of like a 2.75,
Yeah.
Yep.
I wish we had kind of leaned in a little bit more. I'm happy with Lumineth overall. I think it's a lot better, in a lot better place. I mean, that is just patently true. And it's just better to play against. Like, a lot of the NPE was sucked out of that, which is great. And I don't want I want Lumineth players, despite all the jokes we make all the time at their expense. I do want Lumineth players to, like, actually have their army and have fun with it. That would actually be a good thing, And I think this goes a long way to that. I wish they had went kind of farther with some of the units. It made them more, I don't know, what do I want to say? Like, a lot of it has to still do with the magic phase and really over-reliance on the magic phase and everything like that. Everybody's a wizard and all these, like, buffs and cross buffs and stuff like that. It's all fine.
They're just very dependent upon it.
Yeah. And that can really be problematic if you get into certain fights, Yep. I do wish that kind of, the old thing with the High Elves was they're better than you and they know it. That's the joke I always made, right? That when GW does top-down design, they look at elves and go, well, elves are better than everybody, hence we need to make their book better, right? I realize I'm being, like, completely
flippant
there.
Facetious.
Yeah, thank you. But, like, at the same time, I would have liked to see some of the units just be, like, better. You know what I mean? Like, that's fine, and rely less on magic buffs. Just have them be better base. It's fine.
Yeah.
I can see a little bit of that.
Like, they are very efficient as is. That's what I would say.
Yes.
And here what I'm thinking about is like just even regular wardens, which, like are sort of your baseline infantry, and I hope that those I think post bounty hunters, wardens will be back on the menu, right?
Yep. Agreed.
But I just would have liked to see them not have to necessarily rely on casting their spell and, like, the sun metal thing in general. But it's fine.
Sure.
They could just be, like, slightly better fighters or something like that. There's lots of things they can do.
I mean, being on 3s, like, are they 4s and 3s wardens?
They are 3s and 4s.
3s and 4s.
3s and 4s.
Unless you charged them.
Yes, and then they go, Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know how much better you make them. Like, you give them a 3-up save? Probably not, right?
No, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Right.
You could do it in other ways, right? I think this is one of the things I like. One of the shows I want to do in the future is what are the coolest abilities in Age of Sigmar? Just like the coolest individual game element rules, right? And because I think that there's a lot of cool rules out there that can make things interesting that, like, aren't necessarily super powerful but are still super cool, Yeah, and make a
It's
unit
funny
feel
that
distinct.
it's funny that you said that. The first thing I went to was, yeah, cool rules like +1 to hit, save, and wound on like that vampire unit that gives other soul, like just, and
Sure.
I was like, oh, that's just powerful.
Right. Yeah, that's just the spike answer, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No, what I'm thinking of is like I mentioned Bastion earlier. I love
Yeah.
his like Thunderhead or whatever it's called ability, where he can just pick a
Thunderborn.
hero on the board and just boom and call down and you roll. Like most of the time, you only get a couple mortal wounds out of it, right? But it feels cool to do it. You're like that guy.
So you're like,
boom.
Yeah.
Yep.
About 40, 35, 40 dice against Suns. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, right. It's amazing. But just even like big heroes, like you got an 18
Yep.
wound, or like there's plenty of like 16, 18, 20 wound heroes, right? Yeah, sure,
Where you
absolutely.
make
Rational
them
Nihilist
feel
said
the
the
pain.
Wargog mask, right? Like the
Yeah.
Wargog like bzzz, drill you into the ground with their
Yep.
laser eyes. Like what a fun thing that is, right? There's just some super fun things like that.
Yep. Melt them. Yeah.
So, but at any rate, I wish they would develop more stuff like that. And my point is, you could have things like the Lumineth have abilities like that are expressive of their pursuant skill at arms, as it were, right? Or however you pronounce that word. All right. So, but I think for the most part, greatly successful. The books I've enjoyed the most are the ones where I felt like they leaned the most into redefining some of the rules into better verisimilitude, better theming with the army. So, like, despite the Nurgle, Blight Lord's problem, which I think is a problem, I still very much love the Nurgle book and its redesign overall.
Absolutely.
Like, it feels good.
It felt special.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. I think Zinch did a pretty good job. I think there are some definite problems in there and misses in there. But I think Zinch did a pretty good job of feeling like Zinch without being overwhelming, right?
I mean, without being overwhelming, that's somebody's perspective. But yeah,
Sure. It's not as bad as it used to be.
I agree with that. With that.
I mean, Zinch being the cheater faction is always going to be a little cheatery, right? Like that's kind of literally their whole army theme. The new Suns book, actually just like halving the number of attacks and doubling the damage of most of their weapons was a fantastic change.
Yeah.
And here's what's funny about it, okay? This is something I wanted to discuss with both of you.
Yep.
That actively makes the book less competitive.
Right. Because it's more swingy. Yep. It's not. It's less reliable.
Because 10 attacks that do 2 damage is better, all else being equal, right, than 5 attacks that do 4 damage.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Because you get consistency out of it. And that was part of the problem. When they initially made Suns, they were like, oh, they can't have big, high damage weapons because then they won't be consistent enough. They'll be too swingy. And I'm like, that is a clear mismatch of psychographic profiles. Like, this is a Timmy army. Timmy likes swinginess. Timmy likes that he can suddenly have a turn where it's just like, boom, 20 damage. Right? Yeah. Or like, oh, nothing. Like, oh, whoops, okay, who cares? Move on, right?
Yep.
And so the funny part about that change is it makes the army actively less competitive, like less likely to go 5-0 at a turn, specifically because of the swinginess.
Right. But it makes it feel more like verisimilitude's closer.
It will. Most of the players of the army will be happier when playing it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Even though it is patently less powerful.
Yes.
So there's a good lesson there. Right. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I was really fascinated by the sort of crossed incentives there that you can actively weaken a book while also making players like it more.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. It's a rare feat to pull off. So it also makes me think that we haven't seen that many books that I would describe as primary Timmy books. Well, feel free to push back on that. I feel like we've seen a lot of Johnny books in 3.0. Maybe a lot of Johnny primary, Timmy secondary, Spike secondary. Certainly something along those lines. But yeah,
I agree.
Can you think of another? Yeah,
it's more subparts of individual books. Like certainly Avangori Soulblight is of like a super Timmy thing. But like as a whole army where you're like these comfortably sit in there. I mean, we'll see what happens with ogres. I hope that's where they sit.
Right.
I think that makes sense. I mean, hopefully, I think honestly, New Slaves will probably sit more in that space. It'll still have some Johnny-ish elements because it's still like 50 million figs and synergies and combos, but I mean, you know, hopefully it's much more independent operator focused, where it's like, no, this unit's just good because they're the vanguard of chaos, right? Like, and chaos makes and mints scary people.
Haywo nailed. I mean, all the Chad models are right there, just waiting for you to pick them up, paint them beautifully, and play them. And yeah, and so that book, I think, is going to allow you to express whatever you want to. I mean, that so far that looks like one of the potentially best 3.0, one of the best battle tomes we've ever seen. And
which one?
in my mind, the Slaves of Darkness that's coming, Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Far, like, I am so impressed by what we've seen so far with that battle tome. It's maybe in aspects of it will be a little too powerful. We'll have to see. There's certainly power in that book on a number of fronts. Anyhow, yeah, no, that's an interesting point, Vince.
I mean, we'll see. It'll be fine.
I know I'm a sucker for that kind of verisimilitude, and I think they've done a good job of leaning into it, right? I think players want to feel like they're playing the thing they chose. There is a natural alignment there that happens, that if you were into the concept of the army, you know, like if you looked at Khorne and thought that was super cool and you go play the Khorne book, you're not going to feel like there's going to be a mismatch there. Whereas if you looked at Ironjawz and liked kind of what they were about, and then you play Ironjawz, you're like, nope, okay, 100% delivered on the experience I thought I was going to get. Right?
Yep.
I mean, I think like Fast and Mighty Destroyers is pretty toxic as a combo, but you know, like there's a problem there. So I'm not absolving that army of sin, but
I mean, it's fine. Like, yes, they're in your face, but it's normally like one model that's really doing it. It's fine.
I mean, for a lot of newer players, or especially newer players piloting some armies, they're just going to be dead in the water, and that's the problem, right?
Sure, that's fair.
It's like Ironjawz will never be the top competitive army in its current form because it's just a melee army that wants to go have a punch up, and there's too many good counters to melee armies that want to have a punch up, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But to like newer players or sort of, you know, particular armies especially, it's just like instant death, and they have no idea how to fight it, and they walk away going, well, that was crap, right?
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. And I think that for the most part, we've seen a lot of design that makes it easier for players to pick up these new books. Again, I really do think the challenge, when we mentioned complexity earlier, is in the underlying strata. It's in the foundation. I think they've done a good job of like subtracting complexity from books themselves.
Yep.
And that, I mean, we had I think all three, I told you guys this, one of the people at the studio said that was deliberate, right? They deliberately scaled back the complexity of the battle tomes as an offset on the increase in the core rules.
Yeah, which is good. That's what you like. Part A, good. Part B, not good. We need to be able to combine a simple tome with a simple foundational experience for people who want that, and a simple but, you know, like meaningful choices tome, which is how they often work out, right? Like, it's easy. A lot of the new tomes have a fairly linear path you can look at and go like, yeah, okay, cool, I get it. I get what I'm supposed to do here, you know.
Right.
But then they also have these like exploratory elements where you're like, oh, if you're very clever, you can do this and this, you know. And and then can sit on top of a more complex experience for the top end tournament players who are getting in, you know, 100, 200 games a year, right? Yeah. So that they're not bored. Also, shout out to Uncle Adam. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well. He said he just learned he's a Timmy. Adam, I could have told you that, my friend. Let me tell you what. You and I, simpatico. That's why we worked well together. Just Timmy. It's a Timmy parade over here.
I feel like I would be curious, Adam, what your perspective is on 3.0. I mean, because if I were to guess, I would feel like this edition is less attractive to him because of the greater complexity. At least
all the rules.
Rules, and
I don't think I'll let him answer if he's there and he wants to answer, but I don't think he's played a game of 3.0 for that very reason.
Yeah.
You know, he's been rocking the Warcry, and he's got a bunch of awesome Warcry warbands, and they're great. You know, but that's like it's delivering on the experience. It's way easier to rock up to a Warcry table and be like, yeah, okay, I get this. I understand what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you want that, you know, we did the chart with the sort of complexity and ease of starting that new army. There's not a lot, and it's mostly destruction up in that top left, right? Of
right.
Lowish cost, lowish complexity, like easy to start armies.
Like not Gits, but yes.
Yeah, sure. No, they were. Unless you're just doing trolls. Trolls need to be the exception.
Oh no, it's true. It's true. It's true.
It's funny too because I saw so many Gits players with trolls there this weekend as well at Holy Havoc because people just
which is not a bad pick.
Trolls. No, they're scary, and yeah, there you go. You said it's too much these days. Yeah, that's why we need that basic battle pack.
Yeah.
All right, here's my question. Okay. You get to change one thing about the current state of the game. You pick anything you want, okay? What's the one change you're making? Like, and I'm pushing you and limiting you to one because I want to know your rank priority order, right? Like, what's the thing that you think is the most 5-alarm fire right now that needs to be handled? Okay.
I got an easy one.
Per personal join.
None of us can pick. Yeah, sure, whatever. None of us can pick basic battle pack. We all already said that. We all agree that should be there. Okay, that's table stakes. Okay, so now, other than that,
the low hanging fruit in my mind is we're still dealing with a crap terrain rule system. It's almost the end of 2022, and we still have this reality. The community has largely fixed it, and there are a lot of events and tournaments that are using some variation of the answer. But yeah, it's just still not implemented. So yeah, to me, that's one of the easiest low-hanging fruit right now.
No, that's fair. I mean, terrain feels so incidental, right? And it's funny too. Again, like I hate to keep referencing back, but obviously Tom and I just went to Holy Havoc this weekend. You play on Steve's incredible tables, where each table is a custom built experience, and certainly that's not scalable to like every tournament in the country, right? I mean, Steve has spent thousands of hours crafting each of these tables, right?
Right. And testing. Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that in those games, man, the terrain is impactful. Right? Like you feel it does stuff. It gives you bonuses, it kills you, right? Like there is both weal and woe coming out of that terrain. And so it feels impactful to the game, like where you go, where you set up, how you utilize the terrain to your advantage. They're also big pieces, I would add. Like, so they tend to block lanes, and he has lots of impassable and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely, Tyler. Like I understand probably their fear is, well, if we make terrain too impactful, then people will feel overwhelmed by another complicated part of the game. But we don't need it to be like that. Like
not the core.
Yeah.
Core is very simple.
The core could be very simple, and then take things like the magical terrain effects, right? Yeah. And actually just make 6 compelling choices or 12 compelling choices. I don't know why we went away from 12, but like actually have stuff that's interesting in the game and not just like, do I happen to have arcane or mystical? If I have priest, I care more, right? Like the 6 up board is cute, but really you want the incant bonus.
And just to say it, in case anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, so Rob did a lot of work on this on Wargamer events. You talked with Rob, did a little bit. It's been picked up by a lot of folks in the community. 3 keywords: obscuring, impassable, and defensible/garrisonable. You could get a little more fancy, but those are the core 3 that you essentially need in the game. There are a number of TOs that are all implementing this in their packs, and it's a very easy fix. Makes terrain a lot more meaningful in the game. It gives you line of sight blocking, gives you terrain that blocks channels with impassable, and of course we already have defensible. So yeah, then cover is built into the core rules. We all understand what cover means. You don't have to have a keyword for cover. We all know that it's already built into the function of the game.
Yeah, yep. And then, by the way, people in the audience watching, I want to know what your number 1 thing is as well. Drop that in the chat. Let's hear it. What's your number 1 pick? Okay, of if you could change one thing, you're king for a day. You get to change anything you want. What are you changing? Tom, what's your pick?
Yeah, it's easy. All the 2.0 books updated to 3.
Okay.
It's really tough um, for half the player base to be playing under a different rule set.
Sure.
What I mean by that is like with command abilities and the fact that like people like some books every hero has command abilities on them versus some books you have like one unit with command abilities.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's tough to bring new people into the game because I can't just say here buy any of these armies, right?
Mm.
Because what ends up inevitably happening is, well, this army, and this is what's good now, but they're going to upgrade this book here in the next year, and we
Mm.
don't know what's going to be. And so it introduces a degree. So for existing players, there's a degree of dissatisfaction, either because you're on an outdated chassis, or your opponent is getting to play and abuse an outdated chassis.
Sure.
Right? So either way, it's just a bad feel, right?
Yeah.
And so that's on one hand. And then on the other hand, we have people coming into the game, like it's tough for them to adopt in, right? Because now that you're trying to explain that like this is how it is, but most of the time, like for example, my son wants to play, he wants to play his army. He has all these command abilities to choose from, but in the new rules, there's all these core command abilities. So now he's not juggling 3 command abilities that he has to know and internalize. He's
Yeah.
having to like internalize 8.
Yeah.
And some of them are once per game because it's flesh eater courts and yet. And so like for me, if there's one thing that they could do is just wave a wand and have updated books for everybody because it's just so difficult. We are at technically the 5-minute mark, 3-minute mark, Vince. So we need to begin to wrap things up.
I understand. There's some good stuff in here, by the way, that people have said in the comments. Just want to talk about a couple of them. So there was a general shout out from Swaggy Shadow for coherency, and like I think that would actually be my pick. Just because I hate the current coherency rules.
Yeah.
It makes way too many units unplayable, and we have this like duct tape patch of the Battle Brothers thing, but then you have to be a Galatian veteran, which also sucks in the current world, right? And just because of the existence of bounty hunters. And I just, we see more units having like randomly 28 mil bases and stuff like that, which just further pushes the problem. So coherency in general, I would love to see it change to, the 11 models or more, or something like that, or more than 11 models. Otherwise, you use old school coherency, or something else. Like you could do the everybody has to be within X inches of the champion of the unit or something like that. Fine, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like there's choices. I'm not here to propose a solution necessarily, but like things like Battle Bond or Battle Brothers or whatever it's called, where you can fight over the top of people, that should just become part of the game. For some kind of baseline infantry, because once bounty hunters is gone, like I do want to see people actually play with infantry. It would be super neat.
Yeah.
So that would be my one change, because I just feel like too many units get the real short end of the stick with it.
Yeah.
Tom, I had 9 Spirit Host wipe out 10 Stone Guard who were galley vets. I was like, what just happened?
Of course you did, because
they were bounty hunters. They were bounty hunters.
Yep.
It's like, okay, cool.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, one of the reasons I didn't pick battle tactics, which could have been another pick, right, was just because if we have the basic battle pack, it doesn't have battle tactics in it. Like they're just jettisoned from the game, right? So basically there'd be 2 settings, because I think that battle tactics are also very popular amongst a subset of people. And I don't want to ruin that for those people who really enjoy them, right? I think it's okay to have 2 different settings of the game. Like, that's fine. Here's the basic battle pack. Doesn't use battle tactics. Doesn't have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We play Warhammer and have a scrap and fight over objectives. Yeah, fine. Great. That's perfectly good, right? And then here's the battle tactic thing that's about layering on that complexity and making, difficult choices or whatever. Fine. Right?
Yep.
Like that's okay, because then you can pick the mode you want. That's
Yep.
what I really want. Right? I want people to have that modality choice. Okay. Let's see. Who else? Martin Orlando says nuke faction and battle tactics. Attach them to the actual battle plan instead. That's a fun idea. Cygnus had said every time we change an edition, we should always have a Ravening Horde style update to just like all the old army books are gone. I love that idea. I think people would straight revolt.
Well, no, we have the tech for it. You know, and
Yeah, sure.
I made a comment in the chat specifically to this effect. We have an app. Why don't we and I know that I'm asking, this is a huge ask, but when you move, all the command abilities into the core rules and off of War Scrolls, the easy way to do this is just immediately pull them in the app.
Yeah.
Like, just update all the War Scrolls in the app, because we have a living app, right? Now, it doesn't have to be the final version of those War Scrolls. Like when the book releases, you can re-up that, right?
Yeah.
But it would be one way to do that. I want to jump down farther and respond to CW Kreiner, who said battle tactics are what make 3.0 3.0, because somebody said changing battle tactics. I disagree. We played an entire event this weekend and not a single battle tactic was ever used. And you know what? The game was better for it. And it was still 3.0. There were still monster sections, and there were still core command abilities, and there was still there are all the things that make the edition what it is without battle tactics.
So just real quickly on that, you guys were playing killing and objective holding as your two primary things that you're doing.
Well,
something else.
Sort of.
No,
not really.
There were grand strategies. There were lots of other things. It just we weren't doing battle tactics.
Right.
Okay. What I'm asking, right? Because 3.0 essentially you have the killing layer, you have the primary objective scoring, and then you have grand strats and battle tactics as this secondary stuff, right? And I was just asking, did you have a third element to supplant, or were you basically
We had 5 elements.
Yeah, because every round has there's effectively it's almost like what Marty's describing. There's sort of in that particular round 1, there's a particular battle plan that you're playing on, right? And in that, there's 4 different objectives you're tracking, and some of them are do a particular thing or kill a particular thing with a particular thing. They feel very much like it might be go to a place, it might be hold a thing, it might be kill a thing. It's a lot of variance to it, right? It might not even be any of that. It might be go walk off the other side of the table, okay, or something like that. But they're effectively standing in and taking the place, right? So you have they feel ingrained into the experience of the battle plan. That's why I do like Marty's idea, right?
They're integrated.
Thank you. That's exactly right. Where it's hey, this is just a thing you're trying to do. It's part of the scenario. It's built in there, right?
Hey Vince, we've run out of time. You had a 90-minute window to do a show, and we've exceeded that. And so we need to wrap up now.
No, that's fine. So let's give our quick summary thoughts here. By the way, don't forget to hit subscribe, do all that fun stuff. I'm sorry the show isn't longer or better tonight. I'm sorry that I'm out of it. As for those who, just a quick explanation again for those who are late. I was in the hospital all overnight and all morning, and I'm very out of it on pain meds for various problems. So I'm sorry, everyone. But at any rate, let's hit a little summary. Okay, Tyler, overall kind of closing thoughts. Maybe it's, what do you want to see in the battle scroll? What do you want to see going forward? That kind of thing, right? What's your feeling right now?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to get at the core with the battle scroll. I don't think there's a whole lot more to be said about that. There are a number of little tweaks that we haven't mentioned that we could talk about, but, they're not that critical. Anywhere from things like get rid of 4+ rally, right? I think that's probably not a good idea for the game. There's some things like that we're still dealing with. Maybe no stacking of -1 damage. There are certain armies some of us might enjoy that take advantage of stacking -1 damage, the detriment of everybody playing against them. I would love to talk with you guys more sometime
Not tonight.
soon about tonight is a great time, Tom, about battle
It's not.
tactics and grand strategies and what are alternatives? Because I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you guys are definitely I have a disconnect with you on this. To
Well, I
some
think we
degree.
have 3 different opinions on this too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably true.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, I would love to explore that. I think that's maybe one of the most interesting ones to explore in more detail.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
agree.
And we can do that sometime.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot to unpack there. If we're talking about jettisoning a thing, does it need to be replaced? What do you replace it with? What's the experience like? And again, I'd almost want to take it back to the first principles of like why? What's the value of this? What is it adding to the game, to the play experience? And I think that's it. There is an answer there.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think these things are devoid of value. I just think maybe we have an engineering challenge, an implementation problem.
Yeah.
Tom, what's your summary state here?
I mean, things are fine. It's fine. I think that from a highly competitive, it's great. From just general play, it's fine. As an entry level new player getting in, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Like that's my assessment.
Tom, anecdotally, I have this feeling that cannot remember there being so many players who have dropped off because of this complexity issue.
Yep.
Like it definitely feels like something that has hit a higher level in 3.0 than 2.0 and 1.0.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, so it's
Agreed.
the
There's just
times, worst of
no
times.
Yeah, there's just no way around it. Like it's
Yeah.
we have hit a tipping point. And I think that we can see it in the number of players that have just quit.
hmm
Yeah. Yep. So my summation would be like I really love a lot of the new army books. Like I tell you what, man, it's been hit after hit for the armies I played. You know, even with Skaven being a bit underwhelming, I've still had so much fun playing that book. Right, I just think it's a great design. I played a couple games with the Nurgle book and had fun. I don't know, like if that right there is a statement I didn't think I could ever say in my life. Right. Excited about Suns. Like I love the Suns redesign. I'm excited to see what they do with ogres looking along with that, right? So like I just couldn't be more thrilled about the books we're seeing. It just gets me juiced to play these armies, right? Which is awesome. That's what you want. I think we need to build the on-ramp to make it easier for people and to have a better experience for people who don't want that level of complexity. Like we need to have an alternate mode that you can engage with the individual game on. And you know, yeah, Jack just said Brent and Shu, you know, are largely not playing because of it. See, and that's sad. This was a discussion that came up on Twitter, right? With people, and I just think like, I just think that like having that separate mode where they would have a version that's playable and enjoyable to them that strips out, you know, that stuff is what I want. I do not think it's the right idea to reset the whole game. It's about having the different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I hope to see is whenever my one hope for the future would be, well, to continue this battle tome, like for similitude stuff. Like, you know, I hope whenever we see Gits that it doesn't feel like a terrible army to play against or play with, right? That it really leans into being like wacky Gits. Because they're supposed to be like the fun, wacky dudes of destruction. You know, I hope whenever we see a Khorne book that like, man, does it feel like Khorne? Like I am stoked about whatever that book is going to be.
Added up, we've got 10 factions, 11 if we take Cities of Sigmar to be Dawnbringer Crusades. So that would fit what we've generally been getting in terms of the number of battle tomes in a year.
Sure.
Hey, I'm going to be that guy. It's been 94 minutes. We need to wrap.
Nope, that's fine. Very
Brian,
good.
Tom.
I appreciate it, Tom. Thank you. You're taking good care of me. For all of you out there, thank you so much. Drop your thoughts on the state of the current game, what you would want to change. Put that down in the comments. Hit like if you haven't already. Subscribe. I think we're either about to or just crossed 90K subscribers on the channel, which is amazing. Thank you all so much for the support. It's like just incredible, and I love everybody for continuing to show up here every week. It's an amazing honor to do this. So thank you all very much. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon down below. You can do that. It's focused on hobby and taking your next steps on your hobby journey. There's also a merch store where if you want to get your votes in for Team Tyler versus Team Tom, we had some funny discussions about that right before the show. Then
you too could model my shirt.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Thank you everyone for all the great comments tonight. And so really, really good thoughts as to the game. I hope everybody has some fun games of Warhammer. I hope everybody gets some good painting in. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.